Good morning, I'm Angelo Castro III.
I'm Mary Monreyes.
We bring you the news.
And the views that make you think.
Well, sometimes we agree.
Sometimes we don't.
This is News and Views.
And here are today's headlines.
Supporters and critics of former President Rodrigo Duterte gathered as his confirmation of charges hearing began at the International Criminal Court.
Duterte's lawyer blames media coverage for negative global perception of the former president.
Families of drug war victims gathered to watch the first day of Duterte's confirmation of charges hearing.
The impeachment proceedings against Vice President Sara Duterte have been formally initiated on Monday at the House of Representatives.
First in the news, the confirmation of charges hearing against former President Rodrigo Duterte at the International Criminal Court enters day 2, following opening arguments from prosecutors, victims' lawyers, and the defense. Here's the report.
At the opening of the confirmation hearing, Pre-Trial Chamber 1 Presiding Judge Ulia Antoanela Motok explained that under the court's rules of procedure, it was permissible for former President Rodrigo Duterte to be absent from the hearing. The charges against Duterte were formally read in court, including 2 counts of murder and 1 count of murder and attempted murder, allegedly committed from his time as mayor of Davao City up to his presidency. The prosecution, lawyers representing the victims, and Duterte's defense team were each given 30 minutes to present their statements. In their opening statement, the prosecution stressed that Duterte bears responsibility for the allegations.
The commencement of the confirmation hearing against Mr. Rodrigo Roa Duterte is a reminder of the court's unwavering commitment to its mission to investigate and prosecute individuals for the most serious crimes. It is also a reminder that those in power are not above the law.
Next to speak were the common legal representatives of the victims, or the lawyers representing the victims' families. Human rights lawyer Joel Butuyan expressed deep disappointment from the victims' families over Duterte's absence at the hearing. He said that although Duterte has been detained for a year, the families of the victims still have not found peace.
The virus of impunity that he spread all over the country has become a cancer that has metastasized, infecting millions of Filipinos. Mr. Duterte has created clones of himself. He converted millions of peace-loving citizens into bloodthirsty disciples who have become converts to the belief that violence and killings are valid solutions to societal problems.
Duterte's lawyer, attorney Nicholas Kaufman, meanwhile, argued that the court's decision should be based on evidence and not politics. He said Duterte's leadership style and use of strong language reflected openness and sincerity. Kaufman also made remarks comparing Duterte to current Philippine President Ferdinand Marcos Jr.
Rodrigo Duterte was and will always remain a unique phenomenon. His style of statesmanship was novel. His expletives, he spoke openly, from the heart, sincerely and truthfully. And what a contrast between him and his successor in the Malacanang. For President Rudy, his word was his word, and the people knew it. For President Bongbong, his word is for the wind.
Kaufman appealed to the ICC to dismiss the allegations against Duterte.
We will ask you to send Rodrigo Duterte back to his family, and we will ask you to give back to the Filipino people their Tatay Digong.
Kaufman also revealed that the defense had obtained documents from the prosecution, which he claimed show that the Philippine government actively cooperated in bringing former President Duterte to The Hague. Among the documents cited was an alleged transcript of a phone conversation involving 4 parties, with one individual reportedly claiming to be acting as a silent partner of the president in the operation.
Supporters of former President Rodrigo Duterte gathered outside the International Criminal Court in The Hague as the pre-trial chamber began the confirmation of charges hearings against him. They are hoping the ICC will dismiss the charges against Duterte. One supporter also reacted to being called a Duterte clone and a fanatic by a lawyer representing victims of the Philippine drug war.
I don't want the word fanatics. Hindi kami sunod-sunod lang na walang prinsipyo. So, they called us clones. Gumagawa daw si President Duterte ng mga clones. I don't want the terms used there.
Meanwhile, relatives of drug war victims also monitored the proceedings. They expressed satisfaction with the prosecution's opening statement and said the evidence against Duterte is strong.
Nung nagsalita yung prosecution, naging masaya dahil maliwanag naman maayos naman yung nailatag. Pati yung lawyer, si Attorney Butuyan, okay naman yung kanyang pagsalansan ng mga defense, no? Pero pagdating kay Kaufman, mukhang out of the topic. Maybe, yun lang talaga yung maidi-defense niya dahil siguro wala na siyang ibang maging argumento.
For more updates on the confirmation of charges hearing against former President Rodrigo Duterte, we go to One News anchor Angela Lagunsad Castro. Angel, good morning from the Philippines. Nakamute.
Okay, so good morning also from The Hague. It's already 3 in the morning here and halos parehas lang naman kami sasabihin nung sinabi ng report. But yun nga, the confirmation of charges of former President Rodrigo Duterte has just wrapped up, no, the first day. So today naman, it's going to be the second day. So we'll be expecting the continuation of prosecution submissions on the merits as well as the Victims' Council submission on the merits. So ito yung pagpapatuloy lamang ng kanilang pagpipresenta ng mga iba't ibang ebidensya that they think would really nail a former President Rodrigo Duterte to the coffin, 'di ba? Parang talagang magkaroon ng basihan ang pre-trial chamber na i-decide ito na mag-proceed sa full trial. So, yun yung mga nangyari kahapon. I was able to talk to some personalities like si Attorney Nery Colmenares na nabanggit ko sa kanya na nakausap ko rin sa Attorney Salpanelo at para kay Attorney Salpanelo, jurisdiction pa rin daw ang dapat pag-usapan, no? But of course, we all know that the trial chamber has already ruled on that. So, sabi ni Attorney Nery Colmenares, hayaan mo na sila. Hanggang doon na lang yung kanilang pinaglalaban At least tayo, umuusad tayo. Yun ang sabi niya, no? Tapos I also asked Attorney Salpanelo kung ano ba talaga ang kanya magiging papel, no? Bilang isang Filipino legal counsel ni former President Rodrigo Duterte, and he said that he's merely going to observe, no, for the rest of the week, no, for the rest of the confirmation of charges, dahil nga syempre under the rule of pre-trial chamber, hindi ka lang po pwedeng pumasok doon at maging isang attorney kung wala kang accreditation, no? So wala naman sila doon, wala silang ganon. So pababayaan lang muna nila itong team ni Attorney Kaufman na magdepensa para nga dito kay Pangulong Rodrigo Duterte. And after the confirmation of charges, he said that he's going to meet with the team of Kaufman at para daw pag-aralan itong mga nangyari this past a few days. Yun lang daw muna ang kanilang gagawin dito. At yung tungkol naman dun sa sinabi ni Attorney James Butuyan, he actually delivered an emotional speech. And sabi naman nila, Attorney Salpanero, lumang tugtugin na yon. And dun sa hanay naman ng prosecutor na iba't ibang videos, no, iba't ibang mga dokumento. Actually, in fact, nagpresenta sila, no, ang prosekusyon ng mga videos, ng mga audio ni Pangulong Rodrigo Duterte na siya ay nagsasambit, no, tungkol sa mga kill, yung mga pag-amin niya ay yun, isa yun sa mga pinaka-highlight ng confirmation of charges. yesterday. So, yun muna, no? Yun ang ilan sa mga nangyari dito sa The Hague, Netherlands. Diego and Mermon.
Yeah, given na tapos na yung day one, ano ngayon ang assessment ng both sides, critics and supporters alike, about how the first day went? Siyempre, on both sides, ang daming pinakita, documents, tsaka yung actual video. So, siyempre, may mga reactions na sila. At mas lalo na yung reaction ng mga family members.
Right. No, for Attorney Kaufman, on the defense side, a lot of people were were actually disappointed by him because they were expecting a lot from him. Kasi sabi nga nila, rockstar siya doon sa international court, Pero parang ang nangyari, wala naman siyang mga ebidensya na mga pinakita sa kanyang opening statements. In fact, he resort to yung parang blaming, 'di ba? Of course, dinamay niya si Pangulong Bongbong Marcos at sinabi din niya, dinamay din niya ang media na gumagawa tayo ng mga, kumbaga selective yung ating mga ipinalalabas, kaya natitake out of context yung mga sinasabi ni Pangulong Rodrigo Duterte. So, ilan lamang yan dun sa mga disappointment na narinig natin from the ground. Although, sabi nga natin, sa Thursday pa naman talaga makakapag-present si Lawyer Kaufman ng kanya mga merits sa mga kasong ito because that's his schedule. So what happened yesterday was just an opening statement from him and hindi pa talaga yun yung pinaka-merit ng kanyang kaso. So titingnan natin kung anong alalamannin nung kanyang mga depensa sa susunod na araw. On the part of the prosecution, Diego and Merrimon, yung mga, of course, the victims, the ones who are supporting this fight, they are very happy doon sa mga ipinalabas ng prosecution and they really felt the opening statement of the common legal representative Butuyan because he delivered a very emotional speech, very direct, saying na kapag until now he also relayed the message of 400 plus victims in that court yesterday, saying that they were very disappointed that former President Rodrigo Duterte did not appear in the confirmation of charges. And he said also na even after former president has already been detained for almost a year, the victims are still scared, and that he also reiterated how powerful the Dutertes are yesterday through his speech, through his opening statement, saying that, the president has a daughter back in the Philippines who is already a vice president and has currently announced her intentions to run for the presidential elections in 2028. His sons are both in the politics as well in Davao. So if you are going to bring Duterte home back there in the Philippines, what will happen to the victims? It will be dangerous for them. So yun yung mga highlight nung naging speech or opening statement ni Butuyan. Diego.
Angela, tanong lang din, what are we going to expect sa continuation ng proceedings and from the outside of ICC, yung mga sabihin na natin nagbabantay o nag-aabang, meron bang plans for a prayer session or any groupings for the day?
Well, of course, sabi ko nga today is going to be the continuation of presentation ng merits of the case ng both the prosecution and the victims through their legal counsel. And then on Thursday rather, kasi tomorrow it's going to be a rest day, on Thursday it's going to be Kaufman's turn to present his merits, to submit his merits of the evidence. And there's going to be summary closing statements mula dito sa kanila, and merong konting gagawin din doon, magkakaroon ng review of the detention center ni Pangulong Rodrigo Duterte, but under the rules of pre-trial chamber, nandoon talaga yon at tinitingnan nila after 100 days kung okay pa ba yung detention na yon, etc. So it's a minor detail, sabi nga ni Attorney Nery Colmenares, nothing to worry about. Basta abangan lang natin yung magiging desisyon nila, which is within 60 days after the confirmation of charges has confirmed. And then of course, doon naman sa hanay ng mga protesters sa Duterte Panagutin Network, no, ito yung mga anti-Duterte group, sinabi nila sa akin yesterday na magpapatuloy ang kanilang mga protesta for the duration of the confirmation of charges of President Rodrigo Duterte or former President Rodrigo Duterte. And there will be speeches among them, presentation, and of course, pinakalaging highlight, no, ng kanilang mga demonstrations dyan sa tapat ng ICC, Diego and Merimon, ay yung mga pinapakitang litrato ng mga victims of EJ case. And of course, yung mga speeches ng mga ilang mga miyembro ng pamilya na biktima ng EJ case, isa yan din doon sa mga ipinapakita or ginagawa ng mga protesters. On the side of the pro-Duterte movement, even in an ordinary day, they would always, go there sa may side ng ICC Detention Center or yung facility kung saan nakakulong si Pangulong Rodrigo Duterte. Every day yan, they go, they bring food for themselves, they gather there, just to make sure daw mapaabot kay Pangulong Rodrigo Duterte na hindi siya nag-iisa sa labang ito. And recently, since the start of the confirmation of charges, walang pwedeng dumalaw muna dito kay Pangulong Rodrigo Duterte. That's why wala tayo nakikitang any Duterte family member na nandito ngayon sa ICC para nga sa confirmation of charges ng kanilang ama.
Angela, speaking of that, ang nasabi kasi ng defense na, ang isa sa pinresent nila is taken out of context daw yung ilang pronouncements ni former President Duterte. So, mangungumusta lang din ako, kumusta ang reception kaya ng mga supporters ng dating Pangulo sa media na ngayon nasa The Hague, Netherlands?
Oo. Well, hindi ako kasi masyado na punta doon sa mga supporters. I was just in the court, going back and forth, getting guests para ma-interview natin. Talagang nakikinig tayo doon sa presentation ng both, of course, the defense and the prosecution. Kasama na rin yung sa victims through their legal counsel. But I was able to talk to some and I was able to observe. Kasi when I was interviewing Attorney Sal Panelo, dinumog kami ng mga supporters at talagang nagvi-video sila habang ini-interview ko si Attorney Sal Panelo. And anything or everything that Attorney Sal Panelo would say, they would really agree. Maririnig mo sila, yes, tama, gumaganon sila on the background. So I guess talagang natutuwa sila doon sa naging kinalabasan ng depensa. Siyempre, that's understandable. On the other side of the fence naman, yung mga victims, when I asked them about it, ano yung kanilang naramdaman tungkol sa naging opening statement ng depensa, tungkol doon sa joke yun, hyperbole, at saka si former president is such a unique character, na talagang may mga pagkakataon na natitake out of context yung mga sinasabi niya. Ang sabi nung isang na interview ko na mother of two of the EJK victims, sabi niya, of course for us masakit yon because hindi naman joke na mawalan ka ng anak. So hindi maganda para sa amin, hindi kaaya-aya na marinig namin na these things are just jokes.
Confirm lang natin para sa for the sake of our viewers, ano ang kailan malalaman ang confirmation of charges kung i-drop, i-bypass muna for now or i-confirm? Kailan daw maririnig ang decision?
Well, it's like what I've said earlier, after the confirmation of charges, the decision will be released within 60 days. Doon natin malalaman kung, yun nga, tulad ng sinabi mo, Diego, tama ka doon, kung is it going to full trial or hindi, or ibabalik yung mga ebidensya or what. So, hindi pa natin malalaman. Basta within 60 days, or actually, I remember going to an online briefer before we went here sa The Hague. Sabi nila, kung mas maaga meron silang mailabas sa decision, then they will do that. Pero as much as possible, it's within 60 days.
Okay, may sinabi ba ang prosecution about yung style ni Attorney Kaufman? Kasi I was reading up on Attorney Kaufman. Apparently, ang style niya, pag alam niya medyo dehado ang hinahawakan niyang kliyente, sa confirmation charges historically, ginagawa niya mahina ang argument. Tapos hinahayaan niya pumunta sa trial. Pag nagta-trial, dyan niya binibitawan yung mga mabibigat na evidence. So is the prosecution aware of his style or are they guarded with regards to how he's dealing? Kasi baka for the defense, sabihin nila mga tao mahina si Kaufman. But I think yung mga prosecutors, they know who Kaufman is.
Yeah, but you know, one thing they told me, no, especially si Attorney Cristina Conti, na this is going to be, or this is the first time that we're going to see, or that we are seeing Attorney Kaufman in action officially, because we would always see him in, you know, pocket interviews. Tapos kapag nag-i-interview siya, maliliit lang naman yung mga sinasabi niya, hindi ganun ka-detalye. And knowing that Attorney Kaufman is known in his field in the international arena, of course, yung others were just disappointed with what happened yesterday, or parang nakulangan sila. But hindi natin alam nga because this is just an opening statement, no? Aantabayanan natin yung magiging strategy niya. Tingnan natin kung talagang kung ano yung sinasabi niya doon sa opening statement, mas mabigat ba kapag dumating siya doon sa stage na submission na ng merits of the case. We will see, no? So yun ang aabangan natin.
So recap lang today, ano mangyari, and then sa the next 2 days.
Okay, so today, February 24, is the second day of the confirmation of charges. So it's going to be the continuation of the submission of the merits of the case of both the prosecution and the victims through their legal counsel. So yun lang yung mangyayari today. It's going to be from 10 to 3 with a 30-minute break and isang 1 and 90-minute break. Isang 1 and 30-minute break. And then tuloy-tuloy yan. Very very strict sila sa time. So if you would remember yesterday when Attorney Butuyan was talking, na-cut siya. Actually, nagtanong nga yung mga tao sa labas, bakit daw cannot, ganyan. So we explained that they're just following the schedule na during the time, it's just that during the time that he was talking, magbe-break na, so they had to cut him. Pero he was able to come back naman after the break and continue with his opening statement. So, ganun na mangyayari on Thursday. As I've said earlier, this is going to be the time na mag-present naman ng evidence, no, ng submission of merits, itong depensa through their lead counsel, Attorney Kaufman. And on Friday, it's just a summarization of everything, closing statement from the three parties, and then the review of the detention center. And then from then on, we will wait within 60 days kung magkakaroon na ng ruling ang pre-trial chamber dito. Yun.
All right, take a quick breather muna kasi mahaba-haba pa ang araw mo dyan, Angela. Thank you.
Malamig.
One News anchor Angela Lagunzad-Caso reporting live from The Hague, Netherlands. We'll be back with more stories after the break. Keep it here on One News. Good morning. You are still watching News and Views here on One News. Defense lawyer Nicholas Kaufman has blamed media coverage for what he described as the negative global perception of former President Rodrigo Duterte. On the first day of the ICC confirmation of charges hearing, Kaufman argued that reports focused on what he called salacious content while ignoring the broader context of Duterte's remarks and policies during the war on drugs. The defense claims this narrative contributed to the Duterte's arrest and prosecution in The Hague.
It starts with the media, controlled by the powerful and the politically influential. With a sensational headline and a twisted editorial slant, the moguls sell their papers while promoting the partisan agenda of their backers in power. They highlight the salacious content while ignoring the true context.
Now let's get insights from Jonathan De Santos, Chairman of the National Union of Journalists of the Philippines. Good morning, Jonathan. Thank you for joining us.
Yes, good morning. Thank you for inviting me this morning.
All right, Jonathan, ito tayo, no? I think if you've seen the other reports, of course, si Nicholas Kaufman, Attorney Kaufman, is drumming the same beat as the former president was during his term, blaming media for the president's predicaments. No, ano niyo dito? Reaction?
Oo, no, actually, parang throwback nga ito to 10 years ago, 9
Yeah.
years ago, no, na basically what they're saying is we're missing the context or basically we're making it up or sensationalizing, no. Pero kung titingnan naman natin, it really is sensational na may mga pinapatay na supposed drug personalities without trial, without benefit of formal charges, no. Nakaka-shock naman talaga yun, ano. And if you look back on the reporting, I don't think anyone ever said na labas ito sa konteksto ng war on drugs or na yung mga napatay ay nasa labas ng konteksto ng anti-drug operations, no. May isa pang pinoint out kahapon na supposedly yung photographs daw were crafted, no.
Yes.
Napakalaking insulto rin nun to our photojournalists, no. Syempre, it speaks to their skill na striking yung photos nila. But they're bound by very strict ethical guidelines then, no? Na they can't stage photographs. Sometimes they can't even edit, para at most lighting lang or crops lang, no? So these are very real. These are true records of what they saw. And ang unfair to be saying that, no? Ang actual scandal dito or actual dapat na kumbaga kinakatakutan natin dito or kinakagulat natin dito ay yung mga pinatay, hindi yung supposed slant or supposed na yun nga angles, no?
Yeah, supposedly, no, kasi ang nangyayari, ang reaction ng iba, I don't know if you agree, no, na parang instead of answering or defending his client, he's merely redirecting fault to another group, which is media, no? Nagulat na ba kayo that they did this or are you expecting this?
Unexpected siya. Well, of course, hindi naman tayo abogado, no? But unexpected that on such a parang grand stage or such an important stage, ay ganun yung arguments na ibibigay nila. Hindi nakakagulat in the sense na naramdaman na natin to eh. Nakita na natin to nangyari before. And tignan din naman natin, hindi naman din siguro simpleng tao yung mga nasa ICC. Let's say, or let's grant na some of the headlines may have been let's say sensational, some of the headlines may have been shocking. That's part of the business of news sometimes.
Yeah.
No? Pero hindi naman, kumbaga, they're not limited to just the headlines. They're not limited to just, like, let's say, captions on Facebook, no? At hindi na naman limited to news reports, yung evidence ng prosecution, I suppose.
Jonathan, siguro tanong na lang din natin, since 10 years ago, itong parang deflecting na pagsasalita ng dating Pangulo is well observed din ngayon sa defense. Do you think paano ito maapektuhan ngayon yung pag-field work, especially ng mga photojournalists moving forward?
Well, ever since naman, since sumikat yung, kunyari, yung pieta ni Rafi Lerma, no? Under threat talaga sila. There were times na ayaw sila kausapin, ayaw silang ayaw humarap sa kanila, no? Or sometimes there were actual threats for them to leave the area. At tuloy-tuloy naman ito, no? In fact, yung defense or yung kumbaga yung argument that media is just skewing the news in favor of something or against, let's say, the government, yung narrative naman yan ay tuloy-tuloy pa rin. So, let's call it siguro a legacy of the previous administration na tuloy-tuloy pa rin ngayon, where news that is seen as critical or news that is seen as unflattering is automatically labeled as kunyari may karga or may agenda when more often than not wala naman talaga.
Yeah. Pero yung mga attacks na mga on the Duterte side towards media is not also limited to yung sa court or sa television claims. It's very rampant also on social media, no? What is your group doing to at least possibly counter all these supposedly online troll, misinformation, disinformation, and bashing?
As an organization, we document itong mga threats, lalo na if it's a death threat or if it's a threat of physical harm, no? But I think also in the past decade, natuto na rin yung media workers, yung reporters, social media producers, na i-handle ito in some way. Minsan, ini-ignore na lang or dina-document, no? Pero yun nga, it's a good point na hindi lang physical trauma, hindi lang yung physical safety yung at risk dito, even yung mental health ng mga reporters, even yung mental health ng mga, lalo na yung social media people, no,
Yes,
na they have to sift through all these comments. Yun, it's very troubling din for democracy and discourse na ganito na lang kadali, let's say, denigrate ng isang profession or magbigay ng online abuse against specific people.
You mentioned kanina mental health ng mga journalists na based on your group and how you interacted with them, may naririnig ka ba na a lot of them are just scared to do their job properly or just to tell the truth because of fear of backlash from one side?
Nakita naman natin to also during the third administration, ano. It's a fear and parang it's a continuing concern na parang if I go through with this story, if I come out with this story, ano ang balik sa akin, ano ang balik sa mga kasama ko, no? But I think for the most part, naiigpawan naman natin to, nalalagpasan naman ng journalists ito. But of course, we have to be more careful talaga. Kasi nga, pag binanggit ka, kunyari, binanggit yung network mo or binanggit ka by name, no? It's hard to say na walang, let's say, fanatic or someone who parang mamumove talaga siya to hurt you or to physically threaten you, no? So that's always been something that we have been wary of.
Jonathan, how do you respond naman sa claims na sinasabing salacious content lang daw, there's an ignorance of broader context, and ang sinasabi nga dito nila Kaufman, taken out of context daw itong mga pronouncements ni former President Duterte?
Oo, no? Again, it's a throwback to the previous administration. Again, talaga yung defense, no? Pero kasi kung titingnan natin, most of the reporting actually goes into more, mas contextual siya. It's a broader context actually kasi usually kung titingnan natin yung case kunyari ni Kian, yung case ni Carl, yung ni Kulot, usually ang defense dyan was they're actually involved in drugs. Initially ganun yung mga defense, no? And then through media reports, through more digging, lumalabas na actually pinatay pala sila summarily, no? So and all of these reports are in the context of people being killed without due process. Without even being charged in court. So I think mas yun yung context rather than a very sweeping statement na lahat itong libong itong na namatay ay dahil nanlaban sila, no? Parang napaka unlikely naman, no, na all thousands of these supposed drug personalities decided na sige, I will violently resist arrest kahit mamatay ako, no? So ayun, I mean it's their right to say that. Pero I don't think it really reflects the reality on the ground.
Yeah, I'd like to confirm lang, no, yung several key evidences ng prosecution came from media also, no? Clippings, videos, pictures. Did they coordinate with you officially to get some of these materials or sila na mismo took it because it's in a public space na, it's an open space?
I feel yung mga ganyang yung questions of, let's say, copyright and intellectual property would be beyond my pay grade.
Okay.
Pero I feel na marami naman nga in the public domain that they can use. And I think kahit yung mga human rights groups, possibly sila yung nagbigay din ng other evidence, no? Again, I don't think majority of the evidence is from media, no? Siguro like it's supportive lang siya of the charges or the allegations, pero I think marami ring testimonial evidence dito.
Pero I'd like to also ask, kamusta na in general yung security ng mga media personnel, lalo na sa hanay nyo? Dumadami ba ang threats, especially now?
Oo, constant naman kasi siya. A lot of it is actually online din. As you mentioned, yung supposed trolling or yung bashing, no?
Yeah.
Pero for example, we have one colleague, si Regine Cabato, who has been working on disinformation networks, no? She has been getting a lot of violent comments and violent DMs, no? So ganito yung, I think, common experience for a lot of media workers. But at the same time, yung physical threats naman are there, but then especially for our colleagues in the community press and in the alternative press, no?
Right.
If you're doing, let's say, environmental stories or development stories, may risk talaga of surveillance and harassment, and tuloy-tuloy pa rin ito. So we continue documenting these things, raising alerts when needed. So yun, ganun pa rin siya. It's still a very challenged profession. Pero I'm glad na marami pa rin sa atin ang tumutuloy despite all this.
Are we seeing any more stories related to EJK victims sa mga susunod pang buwan o taon?
If you're talking about yung mga killings in the context of drug operations, no, meron pa rin naman. There are still cases of that. Actually, meron din mga cases of parang robbery by police. No? So nakakatakot ito. And I feel, or we feel, na yung mga ganitong incidents that are still happening today, pwedeng effect ito na-embolden yung kapulisan, yung ilang kapulisan na they can do crime na walang na hindi sila mahabla or na walang accountability. And I'm glad naman na may nahuhuli, no? It really should send the message na police kayo, you're supposed to follow the law. And na if you break the law, then you'll be caught and you'll be prosecuted for it.
And of course, at this point, I'd also like to get your reaction also on how you think this whole trial is going on. Di ba? Ano yung reaction ng grupo nyo? Are you satisfied with what you're seeing?
Siyempre, since a lot of us are working journalists, we can't really, parang wala naman kaming opinions per se on it. But siguro ang overall emotion would be we're glad that it is happening. Kasi we did document itong mga killings, we did document the drug war, no?
Yeah.
And nakita rin natin yung struggles ng families to seek justice in the Philippines. And yun nga, since they feel na they couldn't get it in the Philippines, pumunta sila sa ICC. And it took a very long time for this confirmation of charges hearing to happen. So I think for a lot of them, it feels like there is a hope for justice for their families.
Well, I think siguro any messages to other journalists out there na baka takot pang lumapit sa mga unions or sila mismo, they become secluded in their homes kasi eto na, nabubunyag na sa buong mundo and the stories they are to tell, baka gusto muna nilang itago dahil nga sa takot nila.
Oo, no. I think in our profession kasi parang medyo cowboy, medyo solo flight yung mga lakad natin. Ano?
Yeah.
But I think we have seen in the past decade na we are stronger together. Kahit yung support networks lang natin, kahit private support networks among friends, napakalaking bagay to be in community with fellow journalists. No, hindi natin kaya yung challenges that we're facing na tayo lang. Whether that's yung mental toll or the toll on our mental health or let's say security issues, no. Mas madali natin silang maharap kung sama-sama tayo. So, really, the message is to be in community with fellow journalists at sama-sama na tayong harapin tong mga ganitong challenges.
All right, well said. And thank you for your time, Jonathan De Santos, the chairman of the National Union of Journalists of the Philippines. Thank you for your time, sir.
Thank you and good morning to everyone.
Now next on the news, Malacanang has pushed back against statements made by former President Rodrigo Duterte's lead defense lawyer before the International Criminal Court. Palace Press Officer Undersecretary Claire Castro told One News that attorney Nicholas Kaufman has yet to present a clear legal defense regarding the alleged extrajudicial killings linked to Duterte's anti-drug campaign. Castro accused Kaufman of spreading false information instead.
Si Kaufman na nagiging source lagi na ng fake news yan. So, walang katotohanan yan. Ang mahirap magbintang, prove niya. Attorney pa naman siya.
Families of drug war victims gathered yesterday to watch the first day of former President Rodrigo Duterte's confirmation of charges hearing. Holding placards and photos of their loved ones, they called for accountability over deaths linked to the drug war. Relatives said the ICC proceedings renew their hope for justice years after the killings. Some, however, expressed disappointment that Duterte did not attend the hearing.
Kahit papano, may kunting pagsilip ng hostisya. Dahil kung dito lang tayo aasa sa Pilipinas, wala po tayo talagang maaasahan. Dahil wala silang kooperasyon sa mga biktima. Kaya ang saya namin, may pagbukas ng hostisya sa ICC. Strategy lang nila yun. Ayaw lang nila siguro umupo dahil ayaw siguro niya makita sa madla na matanda na siya. Kaya siguro ayaw niya nang humarap. Parang baka napahiya na siya. Tsaka, ang ano naman namin, hiling namin sa kanya, magpalakas siya. Dahil marami pang haharapin ang kaso niya. Mahaba pa ang panahon para harapin niya.
Don't go away because we're not done yet. Stay with us. Welcome back. You're still watching News and Views here on One News.
The House of Representatives has formally referred 4 impeachment complaints filed against Vice President Sara Duterte to the Committee on Justice. The referral marks the official start of the impeachment process, triggering the 1-year bar rule. The House Justice Panel can now schedule hearings to determine whether the complaints are sufficient in form and substance.
It really depends on the committee chair, Representative Luistro, kung mag-start na baka Monday na. And you know that just like yung impeachment complaint against PBBM, ang una munang gagawin, ang una munang tatalakayin would be the determination of sufficiency in form and substance.
Meanwhile, ACT Teachers Party List Representative Antonio Tino believes the complaints against Vice President Sara Duterte were hurdled the committee level. That is, since House leaders endorsed it, one of them, Deputy Speaker Paulo Ortega.
Sarili po naming desisyon to. Actually, when I was with Manong Benny at sinabi niya na merong complainant, si Attorney Cabrera, nakita naman po namin yung complaint niya, which is very much similar po nung sa 19th Congress except for the Madriaga testimony. So, hindi naman po ako nagdalawang isip kasi nga nakikita ko naman po na very strong po yung basis.
Joining us now is Dr. Dennis Coronacion, Chairman of the UST Department of Political Science. Good morning, Doc. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, good morning, Sir Angelo and Ma'am Mary Mon. Magandang umaga po sa inyo at sa inyong mga taga-subaybay.
Alright, well, madaming issue. But pag-usapan natin yung, of course, yung impeachment complaints, no? Yung kay VP Sara. Ano basa mo dito? Palulusutin ba dito sa committee level? Tapos magboboto ka na lang sa plenary?
Well, I think sa committee level, talagang dadaan ho yan sa House Committee on Justice, unlike the first time that an impeachment complaint was filed against, against the Vice President. I think that was last year, no? And magkaiba kasi ng kumbaga man magkaiba na ng conditions last year and this year, last year I think yung the administration had so much political capital that it could easily mobilize the lawmakers. Oo, yung mga allies nila na sa House of Representatives. Ngayon kasi there's the Supreme Court ruling, and then also there's this announcement from the Vice President. So it's not yung condition ngayon is not the same as last year, So I think it will really go through the Committee on Justice, and there they will tackle yung sinabi ni Congresswoman Leila de Lima that it will have to pass the test of sufficiency of form and substance. So tingin ko kaya naman sa Committee on Justice. Pero ang malaking usapan diyan pag dumating na dun sa sa plenary level, because whatever the decision that will be made at the House Committee level will have to be approved by at the plenary level. I think sa puntong ito dahil dun sa nangyari I think in the past few days na kung saan nag-announce si Vice President Sara Duterte about her plan to run for president in 2028. Baka kasi it might have rattled some of our congressmen, especially those in Mindanao. And baka nagdadalawang isip na to na pumirma at sumama sa mga mag-endorso ng impeachment complaint doon sa Senado for an impeachment trial. So, ang tingin ko dito, pwede I think mas malaki pa yung likelihood na pumasa sa committee level. Pero the plenary level, unless the administration is going to do something, baka yung 1/3 na inaasahan nila mabawasan pa yon
Prof, tanong lang din, pagdating kaya sa political endorsements tulad ni na Deputy Speaker Paulo Ortega, sabay na rin natin itong hearings na ginagawa sa International Criminal Court, the pronouncement of VP Sara for her presidential bid. Do you think paano kayo magiging epekto na nito at the plenary level kapag iisa-isahin na nila? Kasi kailangan yung endorsement dito ng mga kongresista eh.
Tama, kasi ang dapat dapat ma-achieve nila dito is at least 1/3 of the members of the House. I don't know how many congressmen comprise, how many Mindanao congressmen comprise the House of Representatives. Significant ba yung number nila? Kasi definitely at this point in time na nag-iisip-isip na sila kung kanilang itutuloy pa rin yung kanilang pagsuporta dito sa impeachment complaints na to. So yun, pero I think siguro naman sa sa Luzon hindi sila magkakaroon ng problema. Yun lamang siguro Mindanao, those congressmen from Mindanao and possibly those congressmen from Visayas.
Yeah.
Yun ang medyo magdadalawang isip. Depende to kung kaninong perspective ang tinitingnan natin. If it's from the perspective of the administration, this is going to be a setback. A serious setback in terms of pushing for the impeachment of the Vice President.
Doc, ang fearless forecast kasi nila, feeling nila lulusot to despite of the fear of the announcement of the Vice President. It's because the Congress daw, yung congressmen, they represent districts, no? So, at saka madami-dami sila. So, yung national spotlight, wala sa kanila. Ang feeling ng mga tao, ibabato ng Congress to, impeach si VP Sara, ibabato sa Senado. Mas iba ang ang takbo sa Senado. They are really beholden to political endorsements. Sa tingin mo, pag umabot sa Senate, ano ang chances naman ito?
Well, titingnan lang natin kung based on the political alignments of our senators, it's 9-15. 9, of course, yung minority bloc. Itong mga pro-Duterte senators. Pero ang problema kasi may sumasabay na ng mga challenges for some of these minority senators, like yung possible cases that can be filed against some of them. Those were mentioned doon sa flood control projects. So I don't know if they'll be incarcerated, madedetain sila kasi kung ito ay non-bailable offense. I don't know if they will be allowed to vote and to participate in the impeachment trial. Tapos yung yung looming or expected na warrant of arrest to be issued by the ICC against Senator Bongo and Senator Bato de la Rosa. So parang in effect na-decimate yung opposition. So how many will remain among these opposition senators, and would their number suffice in order to acquit the Vice President? And I just don't know if the pro-administration senators will eventually change their minds, especially kung mayroon mas sa kanilang mag-re-elect, and kung halimbawa they're going to calculate their votes, baka mamasabihin nila, kailangan ko pa rin ng boto from Mindanao. So they might consider changing their mind, reevaluating their ties with the administration, at baka bumoto sila against the impeachment of the Vice President.
Prof, tanong lang din na sa House Justice Committee naman, ano kayang hurdles yung pwede nilang kaharapin in evaluating yung sufficiency ng complaints? We have 4 impeachment complaints, syempre may i-endorso silang isa bago umakyat sa Senado, pero dito kaya sa mga version na to, meron bang tatayong matibay talaga or matapang rather para umakyat na sa Senado?
You know, the interesting thing was that this is already the second time that I think this impeachment complaint was filed against the Vice President. Yung una kasi hindi na hindi na scrutinize mabuti kasi hindi dumaan sa House Committee on Justice. It was favorably endorsed by at least 1/3 of the congressmen. So hindi talaga na scrutinize. But this time around, it's going to be the first time na scrutinize talaga yung mga evidence to check if they would satisfy the test of sufficiency in form and substance. Sa form, baka that can easily be baka kung mag-walk in the park, wala man siguro problema in terms of form. Pero doon sa substance, tingnan natin what kind of evidence will be presented. Pero I think most of the evidence are just the same evidence that were presented last year. Sabi nga ng isang congressman, parang isa lang naman ang dinagdag yung Madriaga component o statement. So if there's anything new, yun lang. Pero I think nakita naman natin yung iba, no? Like there's this allegation also that the Vice President threatened the first couple.
Yeah.
So, ayun, captured by video. So, I suppose that's going to be a hard evidence. But it all depends on the lawyers at the House of Representatives, how they're going to appreciate the evidence. Pero ano naman yan parang hindi naman kinakailangan, parang ang level ay beyond reasonable doubt. Ang kinakailangan lang is just to show to us that the evidence presented would be able to support a case against the Vice President.
And of course, lastly, Doc, gusto ko malaman, anong sa tingin mo ang magiging effect nito kay VP Sara, given that she is already officially announced her hat in the presidential race. So, nasa loob na siya ng isang, the survey circle. So, how will this impact her? Will this make her stronger or weaker?
Well, I think it depends. Pero of course, since we all know that her early announcement is part of her strategy, to outdo the administration and outwit the administration. Ang ano kasi dito is still pag natuloy itong impeachment itong hearings about the impeachment complaint is that ipe-present in public yung mga evidence, all the evidence against her. Ang dami niyan and some are really, I think some can really damage her reputation. Halimbawa, yung sinasabing bank accounts o bank account na nila mag-ama. Yun na lang, people would wonder how come that they have this certain huge amount of money doon sa kanilang joint bank account. And other damning evidence, like yung mga Mary Grace Piatos, yung mga evidence regarding misuse of intelligence fund, and confidential fund. Pag naglabasan yan, mabaho. So baka ang posibleng maging immediate effect yan ng the Vice President ay madent yung kanyang image as a political leader, as a public servant. So yun ang tingin kong gustong unahan ni Vice President. That's part of her plan, na kung sakaling may mga ipapresent ng mga bad evidence, mga serious yung mga evidence that could directly prove her misuse of those funds. Gusto niya na ilagay sa isipan ng mga tao na the reason why the administration is doing this is because they want to prevent her from becoming a president. Yun ang gusto niyang narrative
All right. Thank you for your time and insights, Dr. Dennis Coronacion, Chairman of the UST Department of Political Science.
Thank you.
And that wraps up today's episode of News and Views.
Join us again tomorrow. I'm Mary Mon Reyes.
I'm Angelo Castro III, kapatid We Are One News.
All sides, all the time.